On today's show, you might be waking up to presents under the tree this morning. What do the Cavs want for Christmas? I'll tell you what I think their list looks like next on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody, and Merry Christmas. My name's Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like 92.3 The Fan, my new Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure they're subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. A proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode, of course, is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. It is Christmas. Some of you maybe got presents under the tree this morning. Some of you maybe got cold because you were on the naughty list. I don't know what your life is like, but I know that today is Christmas, and I know every team across the NBA has a wish list of sorts, something that they maybe mailed into Santa Claus and maybe he delivered for, maybe he didn't. But I want to take a little bit of a look at what I think the Christmas list for your Cleveland Cavaliers looks like on today's show. There's a lot of things that they're wishing for. They don't need a lot. They definitely have been on the nice list with a 26-4 record. So let's dive into that. And then coming up a little bit later on, I do want to talk about why the Cavs are not playing on Christmas Day, why I expect that to change in the future, and take a look at what has happened so far in the month of December. But the first thing that I have on the Cavs wish list for Christmas is a healthy team. The Cavs have not yet, to date, they've played 30 games this season. They have not yet had a game where everybody has been available for them. Somebody has been missing for every single game. We know Max Strus has only played in 2 games so far this year. That has obviously been a big one, but other guys like Karis LeVert has missed time. Isaac Okoro is now out until at least January 2nd or January 3rd. Sam Merrill has missed time. Dean Wade has missed time. We've seen, while the core 4 has been very healthy, and that's been a really good thing, a really, really good thing for the Cavs, we've seen a lot of the role players kind of shuffle in and out of the lineups. Now, I do think that has made things a little bit easier in some instances for Kenny Atkinson not needing to decide if he can play 11 guys yet. He's been able to kick that can down the road just a little bit. But for this team to get to ultimately where they want to be, I do think that the role players are going to need to be healthy. I think that they're going to need Isaac Okoro. I think they're going to need Max Strus. I think they're going to need Sam Merrill to have nights like he had on Monday night against the Utah Jazz where he hit 6 threes. I know they're going to need Dean Wade to be healthy and being able to play defense, particularly when we see this team in the postseason against other teams. They might have big, strong, athletic wings because he's kind of the best option that they have there. And it leads me to also know, like, I know this team is great. If you watch this team, you know they're great. But I don't know how great they are yet because I've not seen the full product yet. I've not seen what they look like when they're fully healthy. I can't imagine it's going to be worse, right? Like, I think that this team with Max Strus, when he's back to a full load of minutes and he's not on some sort of restriction and he's back in the starting lineup, which I do think will be the case when he's full go, I think that they're going to get better. I do. I think that the best version of this Cavs team is something that we've not yet seen because it hasn't yet been available to Kenny Atkinson. They need to be fully healthy. All things considered, it could be a lot worse health-wise. It has been pretty good, but it's definitely on their wish list to get Isaac Okoro back from the shoulder injury he's dealing with and go through a stretch of basketball where every single player that's on the Cavs is available to play for the Cavs. We've not had that. I don't know. I can't even remember the last time we had a game like that in the regular season. It feels like it's been so long, even dating back to last year. It feels like it's been so long since everybody has been available for the Cavs. I don't know that it happened even last year, truthfully. I'm not sure the last time that we had a game where everybody for the Cavs, everybody on the roster for the Cavs was available. So I think that is far and away the number one thing on the wish list for the Cavs, because if they get that, I feel pretty confident that they think they can accomplish anything that they want to do. Thing number 2 on the Cavs wish list for Christmas, 3 All-Stars. They've got one for sure in Donovan Mitchell. I am somebody, my take with the All-Star is that with this team being as good as they are, having the record that they have, and I know that selections are not made today, and I'm not trying to say that, we should stop the presses right now, stop the count, that this should be a thing for sure, because there's still a little ways to go with this, but it is trending in the direction that the Cavs should have 3 All-Stars. Donovan Mitchell should be an All-Star. I think he should be an All-Star starter. Darius Garland should be an All-Star for the second time in his career. And Evan Mobley, without a doubt, I think should be an All-Star for the first time in his career. Donovan, I think, is having one of the best seasons of his career. His counting stats aren't maybe the best they've ever been, partially because his minutes are down. He's playing fewer than 32 minutes a night, which is a really big deal. You wonder why he's not averaging 26, 28 points a game. It's because he doesn't need to on this Cavs team. The same thing can be said for Darius Garland. If you compare the season Darius Garland is having right now to the season he had when he made the All-Star game back in 2021, 2022, his numbers per 36 minutes look better. They might not look better on a per game basis. I think they look pretty similar on a per game basis, but that was because Darius had to carry that team and had to play a ton of minutes to get that team into the play-in. But this year, he doesn't need to do that. He's fit in so perfectly. He shot the ball so well. He has been one of the best point guards in basketball. He is absolutely 100% somebody that belongs in San Francisco for the All-Star game. This should be his second All-Star appearance of his career. He absolutely deserves it. That is something that should be on the Cavs wish list for him to get that recognition, because he's absolutely been good enough. And then Evan Mobley, defensively, he's still an absolute monster. He's a beast on that end of the floor. But offensively, we've been watching him take a leap, right? Like, he's been so good on that end, making threes. He made 3 against the Utah Jazz on Monday night, attacking the basket with just a ferocity that we haven't seen consistently enough in the first few years of his career. We would see it in little spurts here and there, but we haven't seen it with the consistency that we are seeing it this year. He's become a force on the offensive end of the floor, and he's somebody that there's no doubt in my mind is worth being an All-Star. I think that this year he will make the All-Star team. And for the record, with the way things are trending, I think the Cavs are going to be in a position where they have 3 All-Stars. I think all 3 of these guys are going to be All-Stars. And I think especially for Donovan, we know he's a perennial All-Star. Like, you can kind of pencil him in to be there next year if he's healthy. I think Evan Mobley is going to be in the same boat. I think that this is going to be the first of many All-Star games for Evan Mobley. I think Darius Garland is not going to be an every year All-Star, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has more than 2 All-Star appearances when it's all said and done, because I think he's that type of player. He's that good. Up next on the wish list for the Cavs, one more 3-and-D wing. Now, I talked about the health, and that's something that they haven't been able to count on. It seems like, and I guess a big part of this is because Max Strus is the guy that has missed the most time for the Cavs this year, but it seems like they're never completely healthy on the wing, right? Like, I think that in a perfect world, Dean Wade is a perfect fit for the Cavs on the wing. He's that big wing, but in a perfect world for them, I think they'd really like to have another guy that can fill in or be in that spot if Dean Wade is not available, not healthy, or even somebody that's better than Dean Wade, and Dean Wade becomes sort of that secondary guy in that spot. You take a look at a couple of options that could potentially be available in the NBA. I know Dorian Finney-Smith's name pops up all the time. I talked about him with Greg Swartz last week on Locked On Cavs. I know Cam Johnson is going to be a name that's going to pop up. I don't think the Cavs are going to be able to get him. I'm not sure that they can get DFS either with what they have available to trade. But you look at bigger wings like that. I think that is something that should be on the wish list for this team, because for them to get to where they want to go in the postseason, they're going to probably have to go through Orlando, who I think is going to look a lot better when they get Paolo Banchero back, when they get Franz Wagner back. And I know that the Cavs beat them in the postseason last year, but I just think that a little bit more defense on the wing would be a really good thing going into that type of series. And then the Boston Celtics are the other one. We know they've got Jason Tatum, they've got Jaylen Brown. The Cavs are going to need a really strong effort on the wing defensively to get past that type of series. So that is the first part of the wish list. I've got a few more things, including it's Christmas Day right now. There are 5 basketball games. The Cavs are not playing. Should they be? Is there a way to make that possible in the future? I want to talk about that next, right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is my go-to ticket marketplace, and Game Time, of course, should be your go-to ticket marketplace. There are so many events to go to during the holiday season. Of course, there are basketball games, and the Cavs will be back at home early in January, and you're going to want to go check them out at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. That's exactly what you should be wanting to do, but there's so much more to do than just going to sporting events. There are concerts, there are plays, there are shows. There's so much going on this time of year, and Game Time can get you in the building to any of it. They're not just a company that says, hey, we've got great tickets for sports. They do have great tickets for sports, but they're more than that. They've got tickets for anything that you could want to go to. Game Time should be the place that you go for it. They take the guesswork out of buying tickets. One of the ways they do that is you can toggle on the all-in pricing feature, and it'll show you how much it's going to be when you check out throughout the entire process. I don't like being surprised with taxes and fees at the last minute. I want to know exactly how much I'm going to be paying as I go through the process. That matters to me. Game Time allows that to happen. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Today's show is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Rocket Money can help you find subscriptions that maybe you've forgotten about, or that you could maybe even be paying for twice. Don't laugh. It does happen. And that is something that I know people that has happened to, and they've used Rocket Money, and it has gotten them out of that situation. It has saved them money, because that's what you want. That's what Rocket Money wants to do for you. It makes it so easy to track down all your unwanted subscriptions or things that maybe you're paying for twice and don't realize it. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together all in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on, LOCKEDON, rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. I tease that it's the showcase day for the NBA today, right? You've got 5 Christmas Day games, and the Cavs, despite having the best record in basketball, aren't one of those games. They're not one of the teams playing on the NBA's biggest day of the year. I do want to talk about why that is and dive into how maybe that could be fixed coming up, but I just do have a couple more things that I wanted to highlight on the wish list. And one of them is a backup big man, right? Jared Allen, I think, has been okay for the Cavs this year. I don't think he's been great. I think he's been okay. I just got done talking about how good I think Evan Mobley has been and that he deserves to be an all-star. But I think that's an area where they could probably use a little bit more depth. Yes, Tristan Thompson is here, but if something happens to Evan Mobley, if something happens to Jared Allen, the Cavs are in a position right now where they need to either trust Tristan Thompson to play significant minutes, which I don't know is the best idea on a team who has championship aspirations, or trust that Dean Wade is going to be healthy, which, again, Dean, when he's playing, has been really good. He's starting to shoot the ball a little bit better, but it seems like there are these just little injuries that, for whatever reason, pop up with him over and over and over again. And that is something that I do think that you have to factor in as you look at the construction of this team. Right now, the Cavs don't have a third big man that I think they can really trust. Now, that said, they're at their best when they have one center in the game instead of two traditional bigs. That's when the Cavs are at their best. But if one of those guys goes down, if Evan Mobley or Jared Allen goes down, I think it totally changes the way this team looks. So I do think that should be on the wish list for the Cavs as they go through this Christmas season. And then the last thing that I really had, Larry O'Brien Trophy. This Cavs team is capable of winning the finals. Everyone I talk to across the league that works for other organizations or covers other teams, I asked them, hey, do you think the Cavs can win the finals? That's why if you listen to the Locked On Cavs whip around shows, I spent a good chunk of time, particularly in the month of November when the Cavs were off to such that hot start. If people that cover other teams thought that the Cavs were capable of winning the NBA Finals this upcoming June, I believe that they are. I've also spent time asking, coaches for other organizations, front office people, scouts, you name it, people across the league that I talk to and trust, if this Cavs team is capable of winning the finals. No one has told me no yet. Now, how likely is it? I don't know. I've seen betting odds for it, and I'll talk about that coming up in a little bit too. And I don't think that the Cavs are necessarily taken as seriously as they probably should be. And I do think that they'll have an opportunity coming up next month, really, to prove where they belong in that conversation. But I think that this should be on their wish list. They're good enough to do it this year. And you don't know how many chances you're going to get at this. Not every opportunity in the NBA is guaranteed. In Cleveland, I think that we're a little jaded by it because when LeBron was here that second time, it was sort of wake me up in June when the finals get here. And that's not what this is going to be for the Cavs. It's never going to be like that, probably for any team in the NBA ever again. But the Cavs are at a point right now where this team is capable of winning the finals. And that should be, while it was the thing I mentioned last, that should be the thing at the top of the wish list for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Something that I thought about putting on the wish list for the Cavs was a little bit more love nationally, like being spotlighted a little bit more nationally. They're not playing on Christmas Day today. They're not one of the 10 teams playing. You've got the New York Knicks taking on the San Antonio Spurs, Minnesota Timberwolves and the Dallas Mavericks, Boston Celtics, Philadelphia 76ers, the Lakers and the Warriors, and then Phoenix and Denver to close out the night. The Cavs are a team that has a better record than all of those teams. They have the best record in the NBA, obviously. Is there a way to make it so that the Christmas Day games are better? This is something that I've been bouncing around in my head really on Christmas Eve as I was thinking about this, because there was no NBA games that took place on Tuesday night. A lot of the league, I think 28 teams played on Monday, and then teams will play on Christmas. There will be games the day after Christmas. Obviously, the Cavs play next on Friday in Denver. But the Cavs don't play on Christmas, and they are a team that deserves to play on Christmas. And if they keep up the type of play that they've had this year, they will 100% be a team that plays on Christmas next year. I have little doubt about that. But is there a way to make it so that the NBA can get better matchups on Christmas? I think that there is. I think that what the NBA should be doing is every team should have a game scheduled Christmas or the day after Christmas. And I think that around the time of Thanksgiving, there should be a cutoff date. Like maybe it's the end of November, that cutoff date as to, hey, we want to flex this game into Christmas Day. Because you can't tell me that the Cavs would not be somehow flexed into a Christmas Day matchup if that were the way that the NBA was going about this. They would still try and have some of their best games this week, as they always have. But I think that's a way of doing it. Like they can put other games on national TV. We've seen that with them. 2 games coming up in January. Both matchups they have with OKC are games that are going to be nationally televised. One of them is going to be on ESPN. One of them is going to be on TNT. I think that's great. I also think that they should be playing on Christmas. I think that, the Philadelphia 76ers right now, and I understand why they're playing on Christmas. They are a team that won the offseason by signing Paul George. They've got a former NBA MVP in Joel Embiid. I get it. But they're also a train wreck right now. They're a dumpster fire right now. That's not a team that the NBA, like if you asked Adam Silver, hey, do you really want Philly playing on Christmas? I don't know if he would actually tell you no right now, but if you gave him a little bit of truth serum, I bet he would. I bet he would tell you he wishes that team was not playing on Christmas. So I do think that the NBA needs to come up with a way to make it so that they can put together some of their best matchups on Christmas. Maybe it is starting to play games on Christmas Eve, which the league traditionally does not do, especially now with the NFL trying to move some of its real estate onto Christmas Day, as we're going to see today. I think that the NBA needs to change the way they look at this. They need to have their best teams playing on this day. They need to have stars, which of course they do, but they need to have winning teams on that day too. And I think that's a way to try and figure it out just a little bit. So the month of December, not quite over. The Cavs still have 3 more games, but they've played 10 games. I want to talk about where the Cavs rank in the NBA in a few key categories during the month of December. So I will do that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL playoffs almost here, and it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. As I mentioned, there is NFL going on today. There's basketball going on today as well. There's NBA games to bet on. There are NFL games to bet on. There's so much going on. Christmas really is one of the best days on the sports calendar if you do want to look at it. But we've got Kansas City taking on Pittsburgh. Kansas City, a 2.5-point road favorite. I like KC. I don't think Pittsburgh's all that good. And then you've got Baltimore taking on Houston. Baltimore, 5.5-point favorite on the road. Interesting to see 2 road favorites. I'm not a big Houston fan either. I don't think they're all that good this year. I expected more out of CJ Stroud. Then you look at the NBA. The Minnesota Timberwolves are 5-point road underdogs. The Timberwolves right now are kind of a train wreck against the Dallas Mavericks. I like Dallas in that game. I really do. I think that Dallas and Kyrie is always kind of stepped up in these big moments. Luka Doncic on Christmas. I'm talking myself into the Mavericks here. If you want to make a play on FanDuel, that might be the one with the NBA. And right now, new customers with FanDuel can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So head on over to FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com to join today. FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. If you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. The Cavs have now played 10 games in the month of December. They are 9-1. They have the best record in basketball during this month. They've been really, really good in a lot of different areas, which is something that wasn't necessarily the case in November, despite how good they were. They were pretty bad defensively. And that is the thing, for me, the biggest thing that I look at. So I looked at offensive rating, defensive rating, net rating, and a few other key things. For the month of December, the Cavs have been the best offense in basketball. They have the #1 net rating, which I don't think comes as some surprise. They have the #1 net rating overall or the #1 offensive rating, I should say, in the league for the entire season offensively. They're scoring 120.7 points per 100 possessions in December. Dallas is second. The New York Knicks, who have really put together a strong month, they're third. But the Cavs have been the best offensive team in basketball in December, which, again, I don't think is a super surprising thing. But when you pair that with, in December, the Cavs are the #3 defensive team. That is where things, I think, look really, really good. Because in November, the Cavs were 20th defensively. They were a bad defense. They were. In December, they've been a really, really good defense. And that has happened against some good offensive teams. They've done it against Boston. They've done it against Denver. They've done it against a few good teams. I'm not going to sit here and act like their schedule was awesome all the way through, but they have done it against a few good teams. They've played good defense. So they're allowing 105.1 points per 100 possessions, which is third in the NBA. It is a huge improvement from where they were during the month of November. And then net rating wise, well, if they're first in offense and they're third in defense, you're going to guess they're pretty good. you'd be right. They are number one in net rating. They're outscoring opponents by 15.6 points per 100 possessions in the month of December. That's absolutely ridiculous. It's more than a full point higher than second place, who is OKC at 14.3 points per 100 possessions. Third place is New York, and New York has had a great month, but they're more than 3 full points per 100 possessions behind the Cavs in that category. The one thing that does concern me is the rebounding. That's an area where the Cavs really should have more of an advantage than they do, considering how much time they spend playing with two traditional bigs. I know that part of it is, they want to be a better offensive rebounding team, but when you play as well offensively as they do, there's just not a ton of offensive rebounds available. They are in December grabbing 49.3% of the available rebounds this month that they have. That is 17th in the NBA. I do not think a team that, even with a small backcourt, I don't think that a team that has Evan Mobley, that has Jarrett Allen, should be in the bottom half of the league in rebounding rate. I think that is something that can and should be improved by this team. And then one other thing I wanted to make note of, the pace. That's something that I kept track of a little bit closer earlier in the season. In December, they're 15th in pace. They're averaging 100.2 possessions per game. So that's right in the middle. I can't necessarily complain about that. They're not playing as fast as they were in parts of November, and I think that's maybe part of the reason why they are in a better spot defensively than they were in November. But all in all, the Cavs have had a great month so far. It'll be interesting to see how it continues on. They play again Friday night in Denver. I can't wait to see what that looks like. But thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure they're subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. I'll be back tomorrow with more Locked On Cavs. Everybody have a great Christmas.